blocks north. And the fact that it can be commemorated in a book is really a testament to what a little creative place it was. There were a lot of interesting people there, and it was a great place to be, and I was happy to be there.
I'm going to jump to Lorraine, because Lorraine has a kind of funny story about the piece in this book, which is finally making its debut, but was written in 1973. So tell the story.
First of all, I want to say that I thought the book was surprisingly beautiful. When I opened it, I was quite amazed at how well designed and just how beautiful it looked. My situation is quite different than the others. I never made it to the back room. I don't know that anybody necessarily knew who I was. And in fact, you can kind of sort of tell visually by looking at the table here just what the situation was at Max's. It was rather a boys' club, and I thought so. But my situation was that I had come to New York and was the friend of somebody in the music business. He was the head of publicity for Columbia Records, and at a certain point I began to feel like there was more to life than just being somebody's old lady, and that I had to do something because I had a brain in my head. And so I began to write. And I began to write for the Village Voice first, and then I wrote articles for the Rolling Stone. So basically I was at Max's more or less as the friend of my friend. And he was part of something which really wasn't quite as glamorous as what the others have been describing. He was part of a music industry scene. Max's Kansas City upstairs had become a showcase. It was a showcase for newer talent where they could display their wares for the industry executives. And the night that I went with Ron to Max's upstairs was because he was interested in promoting the fate of a young musician who had run into problems with Columbia because they were beginning to have difficulties with his manager. They began to feel that his manager wasn't sufficiently professional, and they were about to drop him from the label. And so the evening that was planned in order to convince the music executives at Columbia that in fact Bruce Springsteen was worth holding on to. So I went, and and when I got there I was a little shocked because there was this strange group from Jamaica. Well, it just so happens that my family is from Jamaica, so I began to perk up, what's this all about? And I said, whoa, you know, I mean, they were so good, but they were so zoned out. I mean, I don't know how many splits these guys have had. I don't know if they understood why this room was full of white suits. I think they didn't know quite where they were. I knew I had heard a little bit about Bob Marley and the Wailers, just a little bit, so I wasn't totally, but I wasn't expecting them to bleed in for Bruce. So, okay, the thing is that it's sort of strange to think about what one's reaction to Bob Marley and the Wailers would have been on this evening, because, first of all, this was pre-Bob Marley. This was Bob Marley when he was still, it wasn't even Bob Marley and the Wailers this evening, it was just the Wailers. And Bob Marley had not yet, his dreads had not yet grown out, they were just about this short, this long, you know, and he didn't have his rock and roll outfit. He had a really dorky denim suit on, and I mean a denim suit with a jacket that was a real suit-like jacket, not even a jean jacket, and he was carrying an acoustic guitar that was as big as he was. but the music was astonishing, and I could. Then came Bruce, who I was there for, and so I said, this is really just too much. So I went home, and I wrote a review about these two guys that I had just seen. It was a very positive review. Okay, it was a very positive review. And it was July of 1973. I don't even know if it was the new era of the musical. It was the old one, okay. I went home and I wrote this review. And the next day I brought it to the desk of my editor at the Village Voice, and I waited to hear what she would say. And she sent it back to me. And she sent it back with a little handwritten note that said, it's too soon for these two. So it never got published. Until now.
Congratulations.
So, Steve Kasher, you were absolutely absorbed in all of these images, which are not simply the photographs, but also something about the art that was at Max's. And I'd like you to talk about somewhat about the experience of editing this book and all of the visual overload and how you made decisions.
Well, thank you, Stephen. First of all, while I have the mic, and I may not get it back again with these wonderful storytellers, I want to thank a bunch of people who are here who helped out, made the book and the show, starting with Tamer Brazis from Abrams, who is really the overarching guiding angel of this book and would not have happened without her. And also Jessica Alter from Abrams, who had done publicity. Matt Hanks and Carrie Culls from Shorefire, who did publicity for the show and the book, which has been quite successful. Lily Hu, who did wonderful photographs that are in the book and the show, mostly in the acoustic era, I guess. Lily's here somewhere. And Kirsten Bengston, who worked on the show in the gallery, tremendously hard. So, if I forgot anyone, please excuse me. So, I never went to Max's. I learned about Max's from the people you see here on the panel and other photographers and artists who were at Max's. Steve, were you at Max's? No. Stephen was never at Max's either. So I come at it sort of the same way as many of the people you hear who never went to Max's. So how do we learn about it? I knew from the age of about 15 that Max's was the coolest place in New York. I just never set foot in there. I didn't feel I was cool enough. Essentially, I wasn't really of a drinking age at that time, and even when I was never there. So I always knew about Max's, and probably the biggest regret of my life right now is never having gone to Max's. But I was able to approach it as, first of all, a photo archivist, the kind of guy who delves into archives and just loves to pull out great photographs and expose them. I knew Anton's work, so I had already known about Max's through Anton's eyes, and some of Danny's pictures as well. And the idea was to make a book and a show that would bring across the idea of what was Max's as well as possible. The book and the show are very different. I urge you to come see the show because, first of all, it has more pictures, different pictures, many overlap as well. Has amazing, absolute first-rate sculpture by John Chamberlain, who's probably maybe the greatest living sculptor in the world. A great privilege for me doing this book was getting to be very friendly with John, and he called me today to tell me he had just made some new work. Where was I?
Speak to what some of the art at Max's was, because you've got a lot of that in the exhibition, and I think we know that there was art at Max's, but I don't think we have that good an idea.
Well, I think of Max's as a place where people influence each other. Danny said once it's where the new met the new, where new things came together to meet other new things. And the core group of Max's artists were Mickey Ruskin's friends that he had known from other bars. John Chamberlain, Frosty Myers, Larry Zox, Larry Poons, Larry Bell, and a couple others.
Bryce Martin, that great love story with the waitress.
Yes, and all kinds of people met each other. And this original group of artists were kind of on the cusp of many things. End of abstract expressionism, a kind of minimalism, a minimalism influenced by pop, color. So all these things are getting mixed up in Max's, just in this group of artists. Then Andy Warhol and people that he associated with came in, and then you have this exchange between that crowd and this more macho group of mostly men artists. So I think of Max's also as this transition point between one model of cool, which you might think of James Dean, Marlon Brando, Jackson Pollock, and then in Max's, literally, you see a transition to a very different model of cool that, in some sense, we're still with. Iggy and Lou and Patti Smith and Janis Joplin. Very different idea of what is cool. It's almost where the 60s comes to meet each other. And the 70s.
I also want to bring up both sex and sexuality at Max's, because it was an enormously open place, and again, there's kind of a sanctuary in the telephone booths and the bathrooms and the back room. And also the fact that it was both homo and hetero at a time when they were much more segregated. Danny or Lenny, do you want to?
Okay. I know, I do not now and do not ever divide the world into homo and hetero. I like to think of the prefix pan applied to sexuality, and that's what Max's was in the back room. It didn't matter, and you know, hey, if someone wants to fuck you and you want to fuck them, what does it matter what they're wearing between their legs? You just, you know, find a way to do it. You find a way to love someone. It's physical or not physical. If I may be so bold, Patti Smith and Robert Meek both were specifically invited to come into the back room where for nights they hovered either on the curb in front of Max's or in the entrance to the back room where there was no guard or building rope or clipboard or anything that you would think. There was nothing except you would not go in there unless you were welcome. Welcome means being brought in by someone who was already there. It's kind of like a club kind of thing, but unspoken and unwritten and not manifested physically. It's a thing. And Patty and Bob were standing and clutching each other like the princes in the tower. And they were so cute. And we were saying, which one is a boy and which one is a girl? Or are they, God forbid, both girls? Or is one a girl and one a boy? But they're so cute anyhow. And I just went like that because there were 2 empty seats at the table. And like Patty, doesn't she, in the book, which no one ever gave me a copy of, says that was her entree, my invite into there. But yeah, it looked so cool. You know, how could they not sit down? 2 people you didn't know if they were a boy and a girl and a girl or a boy and a boy. Right? Or the other way. So that was the sexuality of Max's. And what you referred to is the boys' club was the front, the bar, the abstract expressionist, heterosexual alcoholics.
I never made it to the back room. So
okay, that's what I mean. But so that appeared to you like a boys' club. Oh, it was. It was abstract expressionist, heterosexual alcoholics. I'm sure all of you know what that means. And the bathroom just let down whatever macho barriers existed. Although there were people who went between the two, who were